In a hastily prepared meeting room, two suspicious-looking people sat quietly. But that's not all, there was also the shadow of a smaller person. A smaller figure, a foot or so tall, with dragonfly-like wings on her back. With this tiny person's shadow at the center, the other two sat opposite to each other. It was Ramiris and her two servants, Beretta and Trainee. The small pixie bashed a fist against a small desk in front of her and said, "This isn't gonna work. We have to move away." While looking at Ramiris gently, Trainee said, "Correct as always, Lady Ramiris. Truly, a most brilliant idea," and Ramiris nodded in satisfaction. Right? Beretta then spoke, "One moment please. Brilliant through the idea maybe, where do you intend to move to? And could you share the reason?" Beretta thinks that why does he always have to be that guy? His colleague Trainee was kind and attentive, a very capable woman. She had a good reputation among the spirits, allowing her to manage Ramiris' labyrinth all by herself. These were abilities Beretta did not possess. She was undoubtedly, to Ramiris and himself, a useful talent. However, there was still a problem with her. That being, Trainee was absolutely spoiling her master, Ramiris. She agreed with everything Ramiris said, never doubting any moment. Someone needed to stop this before it led to trouble. He can't stand it anymore as he didn't follow Ramiris to be that type of character. To be the guy that always intervened, ex-Demon Clan member Beretta mocked himself. To someone like him, who did enjoy Ramiris' company very much, getting bossed around all the time wasn't a concern. But his colleague, that stood together with him, not only didn't advise Ramiris, but even blindly spoiled her in her palm, which was hard for him to accept. Unfortunately, it was an ironclad rule of life that the hardest working people tended to be the ones who lost out in the end. If you blow the whistle and warn about the dangers ahead, it's usually your job to clean up the mess that results. As such, Beretta would be playing the unfavorable role today. Ramiris said, "That is a great question. Isn't it super boring living here, Beretta-chan? There's nothing to do for fun in this place. The only diversion we have is building golems, and that's about that. There aren't many visitors normally anyway. But there is a lot of fun stuff over there. That's why we should go there and have fun. That's how it is." Hearing this, Beretta sighed inwardly, thinking that's just what I expected. Beretta had no direct reason to object to Ramiris' suggestion. The only thing was, based on Demon Lord Rimuru's personality, he didn't think the man would easily agree to it. Even if she wanted to move directly to there, it was possible that she would eventually get kicked out. Reasonably speaking, Trainee should have also understood this, but as his colleague, she kept on caving to Ramiris. This forced Beretta to take a stand. Beretta said, "But Ramiris-sama, hasn't Rimuru-sama already rejected this plan?" And it was true, Ramiris has been rejected once already. Ramiris may not have been so self-aware, it was, however, a huge problem to Beretta. Trainee said, "Come now, Beretta. You're overthinking this. Rimuru-sama is such a nice young man. If someone as cute as Ramiris-sama makes a request, how could he possibly refuse her so ruthlessly?" Beretta's useless colleague just liked to make such optimistic claims all day. She was extremely calculating and capable of encountering anything unrelated to Ramiris, yet right now she really couldn't be relied upon. That's why Beretta had to think on behalf of the two airheads to come up with the right plan. After all, Beretta also wished to move closer to Rimuru. He supposed that's why he find even a situation as ridiculous as this exciting. And it was lucky he had a mask on, because under it was a smile almost childish in its glee. As Rimuru escaped from the location of the association branch, a man jumped out of his shadow to greet him while kneeling. He introduces himself, "My name is Gabamon, I'm here at your summons, Rimuru-sama." This man was one of the hobgoblins that Rimuru named. He was quite ambitious, as Rimuru recalled hearing news about him fighting with Gobta over the seat of vice captain back when Rigor was still captain. And Rimuru asked, Hey, weren't you a lieutenant? And didn't you move to another corps because Gobta became the captain of the Goblin Riders?" If he was able to become a lieutenant, it meant he was more than capable of being a commander. And Gabamon responds, "Yes, my lord. Honestly, I don't want to work under anyone. So I thought I would work as an individual for now." I want to recruit direct subordinates that only answer to me and build my own troops. Rimuru thinks that Gabamon has some real backbone. He gave up his chance at vice captain of the Goblin Riders because he didn't want to serve under Gabta, so having such ambition was as expected. And Rimuru says, do you? Well, keep up the good work. Now listen, Ramiris-kun is someone I really rely on, so please protect him vigorously and avoid being noticed. I think you could learn a lot from the way he sways people's minds. Even though most people work for him due to the temptation of profits, that is definitely not the only factor. You can learn from him while protecting him. And Gabamon assures, yes. I will keep that in mind as I execute my duty. Gabamon was fully motivated. The way Benimaru described him, Gabamon tended towards being too confident in his abilities and often looked down on the flawed traits of his subordinates and companions. That's one reason he failed to reach captain, despite being much more physically gifted than Gabta. If he could learn to be more of a team player, that captain's job could be his before long. Therefore, Rimuru hoped he would undergo some growth through it. Rimuru said, if you complete this mission well and learn something along the way, report back to me then. I'll give you this katana of mine as a reward. Kurobe had contacted Rimuru earlier to report that his personal sword was complete. Which means he'd be bidding farewell to his katana. It was just a temporary weapon, but it was harmonized with Rimuru's aura well enough that its quality had become incredible. Gabamon was excited and flattered, really? And Rimuru assures, that's right. Considering your abilities, you should be able to wield this sword. But you must work harder to get my approval, and Gabamon is confident, yes sir. I will live up to your expectations. Departing with these words, Gabamon ran off to guard Ramiris. Rimuru intentionally dangled the katana in front of Gabamon to lure him into doing the deeds. For Rimuru, winning a subordinate's trust isn't a trivial matter. Like how people used to think about obligation and duty, if you didn't look out and provide service to each other, it would wreck the whole master-servant relationship. Speaking of this, Rimuru was concerned about getting better himself, so he really shouldn't be seen as a role model. He hoped Gabamon would prove himself in his own way and meet Rimuru's expectations. Now that the invitations had been sent, all they needed to do was to ensure their preparations wrapped up before the festival. Rimuru hoped they can host a grand festival. With his mood flying high, he outlined the necessary matters in his head. He then returned to the town of Tempest Federation.